Hi, I'm Rob Wright with Dark Reading here at the Dark Reading News Desk at Black Hat USA 2025 in Las Vegas, and I'm here with Elia Zaitsev, CTO of CrowdStrike. Elia, thanks for joining.
Good to see you again, Rob. Thanks for having me.
So, you guys just put out a 2025 threat hunting report. There was a lot of data in it. A lot of stuff caught my eye. But was there anything in the report or anything that you observed that I guess stood out to you over the last year?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stats and figures in that report.
A lot.
Some of it, while interesting, I would say is not surprising. Some common trends we continue to see: adversaries get faster, their campaigns are expanding, they're targeting certain sectors increasingly large amounts. We're seeing continued trend of malware-free intrusions. I think like 81% of interactive intrusions we saw were malwareless. Continued rise in cross-domain attacks targeting cloud in particular, like 135% year-over-year increase. I think on the more interesting side, or maybe less expected, there's one adversary in particular. We saw a huge uptick in activity. A North Korean state actor we call Silent Cholima, something like 220% increase, coinciding with a employment scam operation that we've been talking about for like over a year or so at this point. Some very novel, interesting things occurring there, but in particular, kind of segueing here, we're seeing a huge demonstrable increase in their utilization of new generative AI techniques to assist and accelerate their operations, coinciding also with the increasing nature of AI being a new attack surface. AI systems that enterprises are looking to leverage is increasingly becoming an attack surface for adversaries as well.
Right.
So I thought some of the specifics of what and how they're doing it were interesting and a bit novel.
So why have the fake tech worker scams been so successful? I mean, from my perspective in the media, it seems like I've been writing about this stuff for a while now, but it seems like it keeps working, and if the data from the report is any indication, it seems like they're getting better at this using these AI tools. So are there just so many companies out there trying to hire developers and tech workers that they're falling into this? Or is it something that the adversary is doing that is, I don't know, making this more effective?
Yeah, so, I mean, it is an impressive scale. I think we ourselves have identified, 320 organizations in the last year that had hired at least one of these operatives that we were able to thankfully notify our customers about. So there's lots of, there's a skill shortage, there's lots of open jobs out there, but yes, what are they doing that's making them so effective? We are increasingly see them leverage generative AI in particular.
Right.
So it starts in the very beginning where they're creating fake profiles, LinkedIn profiles, and they're using generative AI to help create the cover for those profiles. Here's websites, synthetic websites that Gen AI can put together in a minute.
Sure.
That talks about the work that this employee did in the past. When they go and actually do the interviews with these prospective employers, they're using, first we saw them use generative AI to actually help them answer the question. So in real time, they're using speech to text, text to speech systems plus LLMs to be able to answer complex coding questions that they're maybe not actually developers, that they wouldn't be able to answer themselves. Not that different than what you see in the traditional, the regular employment market where people are using these tools to help them out.
Right.
They're going even further though, and we're actually now seeing them utilize deepfake technologies to create different physical appearances. So you'll have a single operative that will have a fake digital appearance and voice, and that same operative will now interview with the same company for the same role multiple times until they get the offer. And then once they actually start, now if you think about it, some of these operatives who, English is not their first language, they probably don't have domain expertise in whatever job they've just, they're not Kubernetes experts, for example.
Sure.
And they're working at multiple employers. So guess what they're leveraging to make sure they can do their job?
Yeah.
Multiple jobs at one time. They're using generative AI systems to actually respond to emails and Slack messages in fluent English and keep track of the different tasks coming up from the different employers. So, great demonstration of how the technology could be applied for increased productivity.
Sure.
In this case, though, it's being subverted by adversaries to do
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm actually using Gen AI right now for this interview. I'm not not doing anything.
Well, I've got nothing here. This is all authentic, right? This is original human.
But no, seriously. So with the video stuff, though, I always wondered how, unless you caught these guys in the act, and I've definitely seen some of the stuff out there where companies have recorded the video interviews, and you can tell, but like how you were able to tell, how you would be able to tell if somebody was using deepfake technology for audio or video, it must be pretty hard, right?
It's a cat and mouse game, right? There's new technology comes out that's able to create these synthetic audio, video, images, et cetera. And then that same technology gets utilized to be able to detect and identify that, sometimes in real time. And then of course the adversary evolves and creates a new one. So it's a bit of a cat and mouse, spy versus spy type thing. So while I wouldn't dissuade people from investing in those areas, and we want to continue to keep up with the adversary, just like we do in cybersecurity in general, you have to expect that eventually someone is going to get through, and then what do you do?
Right.
And that's where I think the good news is we have a combination of some new innovative capabilities, but also the conventional technologies that were designed to stop general categories of threat like insider risk and identity detection and response.
Sure.
They apply equally well here. I mean, the caveat is you've got to implement them. You've got to implement those robust controls and practices as an organization, but those same capabilities will apply to this new generation of threats. And then there are some unique things we can do from a threat intelligence perspective. I think our head of threat intelligence, Adam Myers, put a post up today where we've noticed that because there's it's a group of operatives that are running this operation across many companies. There's certain telltale signs that they haven't picked up on yet, like they tend to take pictures of their driver's license on the same exact blue fabric background, I guess, back at headquarters, and we've kind of noticed that. So it's been posted, so it's probably that piece of information has been blown. But the other thing to keep in mind is these operatives are not physically located in the U.S. They're operating out of North Korea. So there are commonalities to their tradecraft and infrastructure. And with a company like ours, we have a global cloud-based network. We can start to pick up on those commonalities and look for unusual things that they're doing.
Right.
An employee living in Austin, Texas, running one laptop at home doesn't look the same as somebody who's doing it in Pyongyang with 50 machines in one location. So there are some technical indicators that we can leverage with our breadth and depth.
And they're giving them some stuff away with their tradecraft, and
they'll update that tradecraft, and we'll be looking out for it.
Yeah. I wanted to jump back to something you mentioned at the beginning. I think it was increase in cloud attacks. What was the stat? 130?
I think 136%
36
year increase.
Okay. Why is that happening? I mean, on one hand, I guess I kind of understand why that is happening, and I understand why organizations are moving to malwareless attacks because detection's getting better, and we're getting better at protecting the network and the perimeter. But like cloud just seems like every year it's a bigger threat vector. So what do you think is going on there?
There's a couple different factors coming in together. One is just the increasing proliferation and usage of those technologies. And that's where the computing infrastructure is shifting towards. That's where the adversary is going to shift towards. There is overlap and dovetailing with the rise of generative AI systems. These systems tend to be built in the cloud. So it's natural that as that attack surface increases, the underlying infrastructure that operates those systems is going to be caught up in that increased focus. And I think it's something we've seen as a general trend in IT for decades. New technology emerges. It has great promise for increased productivity, reduced costs, et cetera. So the business rushes to adopt that new technology, and all the great control standards and systems we've been developing for the previous generation of IT, all those security standards, they're not yet baked into that new business process, that new IT process for those organizations. So security is having to go run and catch up and make sure they kind of put some guardrails in place. We don't want to slow down adoption of new technology.
Right.
We want to keep friction out, but inevitably there has to be a compromise there.
Yeah. And we'll get there eventually, right?
Yeah, well, of course, we always will, but then there'll be some new paradigm computing to worry about. There's one more thing I think to point out there.
Sure.
It's not just that cloud usage is growing, so it becomes an attack surface. There's, I think, this broader trend of cross-domain attacks that adversaries are keying in on. So you're moving from not just the endpoint, not just the cloud, not just to say identity as threat vectors, but combining them all, because what the adversary recognizes is that many organizations, their tools are fragmented, their visibility is fragmented, their teams in many cases are fragmented across those domains. So if you think about incident response, SOC operations is almost being a race. You're chasing after an adversary.
Yeah.
What they're doing essentially is they're crossing these domain boundaries, which is like turning a right down some alleyway while you're chasing after them, and they know they're going to sometimes be able to shake the defenders.
Sure.
So one of the big things we focus on is making sure we've got broad visibility in a truly integrated platform, so we can put all that information into one single place, so that switching between domains doesn't just make the adversary disappear.
Right. Well, thank you for joining me, Elia. I appreciate it. Thanks for putting the report out. It was informative. It's a little depressing, but no.
It's like all of security, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching this segment of the Dark Reading News Desk. I'm Rob Wright, and we'll see you next time.